Welcome to Chicago Reacts, and enjoy the spooky season with me today. I am going to be looking at how to drinks raise the dead with these 3 horror drinks. I'm excited for this. I'm not drinking today. I'm still sick. Had done like 15 videos. I'm still sick, but I'm excited. I'm having a Halloween party coming up, and maybe one or all 3 of these drinks will make an appearance. I hope you're excited. I certainly am. Get into the spooky season with me. And without any further ado, let's begin.
Welcome to the How to Drink Halloween special.
Ooh.
Hey, so this is the How to Drink Horror Film Extravaganza, the Halloween special. Here we go. I wanted to make drinks inspired by 3 mostly horror movies that I liked. I hate a lot of movies too, but I like a lot of movies, and I like a lot of horror movies, and how do you pick? So I'm racking my brain. I got a list of every movie that I maybe kind of sort of want to do drinks from. And what do I zero in on? Well, I zero in on movies that I feel like, well, actually, that in point in fact, have potions in them. That makes my life a lot easier. So we're going to make some potions, some serums, and some gunk today on How to Drink. First movie, Death Becomes Her. It's a great movie. Meryl Streep, Goldie Hawn, Bruce Willis, the Potion Lady, whom I was a young man when I saw this movie. I like the Potion Lady.
We are creatures of the spring, you and I.
Okay, let's make Death Becomes Her. So the potion in this movie is a swirly, twirly, illuminated thing in a spike of glass. 2 things. I don't actually have that vase. You could buy them prop from the movie. Apparently online it's about $1,000. I'm not gonna spend $1,000 on this. Maybe it was like 3 or 4,000. It was a lot of money. It's like
Wow.
the actual hero prop that was used on set.
That's really cool. I want to see this. I've not seen Death Becomes Her. I do want to.
I'm crazy. I'm not that kind of crazy. 2, the potion is very clearly illuminated. And if you want it to be illuminated, you can go back in time to 1992 and rotoscope this episode yourself. Or we'll just put a backlight behind it, because actually it's unnaturally illuminated. I don't even think they had like a little light beaming into it. They did that in post. There are limits to what I can do. I'm gonna get real close. I'm gonna get real close to that illumination, but I'm not gonna nail it because physics. Anything you can drink that is self-illuminating
Damn physics, always ruining our fun trying to make illuminated drinks.
will kill you. Just how to drink advice. If you pour 2 liquids together and they start glowing, don't drink it. So this drink, I look at it and I'm like, okay, it's gotta have all of this swirly twirly stuff in it, right? And actually, if I did this as a shook drink, if I made it like a sour or something like that, I think a lot of that would get lost. And if I put any kind of thing with fruit pulp in it, it would also get lost. Like that would compete with our swirly twirly.
I feel like it depends on how much edible glitter you put in the drink. Edible glitter goes a long way to make things look like they swirl.
Which, by the way, is just going to be luster dust. What do I do? Well, what I do is...
Luster dust. That's what he's talking about, I think. I mean, I've definitely made drinks before where it's like there was like I just mashed up a bunch of blackberries and used vodka and edible glitter, and like it swirled, baby.
So this is lime juice that I have clarified, and I clarified it using a
interesting.
technique called the agar-agar gel clarification. I don't know if it's agar-agar or agar. I think it's agar-agar though. But it's made from seaweed actually, and Dave Arnold Dave Arnold figured this out. He is the master of clarifying things. And if you want to clarify this stuff, you will need some telephone brand agar-agar, which I'll put a link to in the pinned comment below. And also, you will want to have Dave Arnold's book, Liquid Intelligence, which I misplaced in this past week doing all these fancy cocktail things. It's around here somewhere. But look at this. There's a link and a picture to both of them right up top there. So with all of that said, which was a hell of a lot, let's get to making this drink. We are going to start, and I'm going to go in a weird order here, because in my mind, usually you go cheapest ingredient to most expensive, but I put a lot of work into that lime juice, so in my mind, that is the most expensive ingredient here. So we're gonna start with a ½ ounce of Chambord, and this is sometimes called the Holy Hand Grenade. My bottle is kind of gross looking. I should have cleaned it before we use it on camera, but this is a raspberry or blackberry liqueur, ½ ounce. And it smells pretty potent. Now I want a ½ ounce of maraschino. Okay, now I wanna do 2 ounces of gin, which apparently we're gonna use aviation gin, why not? This is an
Thanks, Ryan
actress
Reynolds.
gin, and there are actors in the movie Death Becomes Her. Therefore, it's the appropriate gin. All right, so then we're going to add 1 ounce of our clarified lime juice. Got our pink luster dust. I almost opened it like sideways, and while my hands were flailing, don't do that. You got to be careful about it. So pink luster dust, this is stuff that like bakers use to make like shiny cake stuff. What goes on the outside of a cake?
Fondant.
Fondant, yeah, but I'm icing on a cupcake. If you want it shiny, you might use luster dust. It's an edible kind of glitter. How much do you add? Look in the close-up, and that's how much you add. Because honestly, it's almost weightless, this stuff. It is not something you can measure. That's the amount I'm adding, you know, a bump.
You know, a bump. For me, I add as much as my heart desires on a particular given day.
That's probably a lot more than we need, by the way. Okay, we're gonna crack some ice into our glass.
Although I will say when I'm making a drink like this, with the edible glitter, I'm usually making a lot more than a single drink. I'm putting it in a bottle this big, you know, and like pouring it out from the bottle. So, or like a big punch bowl or something. So I would use however much I need to make sure it stays shiny, but it changes if you're doing just a single drink.
Here, and I know what you're thinking, but Greg, this drink isn't opaque, is now not clear. The reason why I wanted to use that clarified lime juice is because I don't want anything to compete with the look of this drink. Like, if there was colored lime juice in here, this stuff wouldn't even look pink anymore. It would look, I don't know, whatever red plus green looks like. Now, as I said, I don't have the exact glassware that they use, but I do have this. All right, so then we take our big old flute. Okay, this is the potion from Death Becomes Her. If it sits still, you know, the luster doesn't really show up too much, but if you give it just a little bit of motion,
there it goes.
I think you get the effect that you're looking for there. Let's see how
it does look really cool.
That's a tasty drink. I like that. It's very reminiscent of a last word. In fact, because the maraschino, the lime, and the gin, it's a different ratio than in a last word, but that combination of flavors, you know it's going to work. It's going to work like a last word.
I feel like it kind of looks like the drink that the Wicked Witch or the evil stepmother uses in Snow White. Yes? It's been a long time since I've seen that movie. Maybe not.
To that, we throw in a little chambord, which of course is very sophisticated and European. But also, it's fruit. It's a berry liqueur. And I would just think about that character describing herself as, I follow this spring. And so I think of that in bloom, flowers, fruits, and I kind of like that idea. What I almost did before we shot this was throw in a bar spoon of Saint Germain, but this is the way I worked out the recipe. I'm going to test the Saint Germain because I'm still curious. I think it's either going to make it take it over some threshold into amazingdom, or it's going to make it garbage. It's a light, tart, refreshing, balanced drink with just a touch of sweetness and with some raspberry, blackberry notes kind of hidden in there. I like it a lot. The maraschino is great. You get the berries kind of on the end there. Let's just see if I'm crazy about this idea or not. A little extra, little shot of Saint Germain. I was worried somewhat that it would affect the color of the drink, but obviously it hasn't. Saint Germain is an elderflower liqueur, and I just think flowers, spring, in bloom.
It can go so wrong so fast, though. Like, I like elderflower in a limited capacity, but like it's one of those things that if you put a little too much in there, it's way too much.
Oh no, I like that. Do that. Make that the official. That kicks it up. I thought it might be just a skosh tarter than I wanted to be, and very much like a last word because they're pretty tart actually. But with that Saint Germain, it puts a different character on that tartness, and it turns it from pure tart to tart flowers. I'm going to enjoy this, and we'll be right back with another drink from a movie I really enjoy. Now we're going to make the Re-Animator serum. Have you ever seen Re-Animator, Meredith?
I haven't.
Oh, wow. So Re-Animator is based on a short story by H.P. Lovecraft, very problematic author, but also inspired so much horror and weird science type stories from the 20th century. Huge influence, very racist piece of shit. So Herbert West, Re-Animator, he's a guy who's got, he's a doctor, a scientist who figures out how to bring people back from the dead. It's a zombie flick, and also there are traditional zombies in this movie who seem to just be rampaging and unintelligible, but there are also like the intelligent undead is like a factor in this film as well.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't come back, like they come back like alive.
Okay.
It is an unsettling story. They are undead, And there is something about being undead that removes you from all social consequences and turns you into a monster. His professor becomes obsessed with repeating the experiment and bringing people back from the dead. It yields this scene in the horror film that is referred to as Head Gives Head. I think you can imagine. It's quite gruesome and famous.
I don't think that gruesome. You know, I went to someplace a lot dirtier in my mind.
It's a real gross movie, yeah. And then there is like a scene, you know, at some point, like the whole morgue has to get up and there's like a rampage and stuff. So I think zombies are scary. But Re-Animator, we're gonna do it. To make this drink, by the way, obviously you gotta have some hypodermic needles. We'll find something.
Obviously, you have to have hypodermic needles. Obviously.
These are great though. We got these at Spirit Halloween. They are fantastic because they're very clearly, I think they're meant for either like hooking up an airline tube to move blood around or something, or specifically for drinking out of, because they have like this off-center tube and it makes it, I don't know, they work good for putting shots into basically. My thought process behind this drink, right? I know, what does it gotta be? It's gotta be green, it's gotta be glowing. I just told you I can't do glowing without killing you. It also has to kind of wake you up. I wanted it to be a bright green espresso martini. Get it? Right?
Oh no. Internet. We are having an internet connectivity issue. Some of that's gonna get cut out. The internet problem has resolved itself, I guess. So here we go. Continuing.
Makes it, I don't know, they work good for putting shots into basically. My thought process behind this drink, right? I know, what does it gotta be? It's gotta be green, it's gotta be glowing. I just told you I can't do glowing without killing you. It also has to kind of wake you up. I wanted it to be a bright green espresso martini. Get it? Re-Animator. So we looked into, does clear coffee exist? It doesn't. Turns out it doesn't.
It tried to.
It tried to exist, it doesn't exist. And then I had a thought, eureka! There's a lot of caffeine in matcha. I know, because I love matcha and it really gets me going. Matcha is a kind of green tea that is drunk in Japan, actually, in a whole matcha ceremony, or you know, like this little bamboo whisk thing. And it's just powdered leaves. It's got the whole leaf powdered. That's why it's so potent. Potent's the word I'm looking for. Now, we did a bunch of experiments.
I do love matcha. Matcha's really good.
That, where we were just adding matcha to the cocktail. And the problem with that was that it comes out gunky, you know, because the powder is still in there. And so I tried this idea of doing a vodka infusion, taking matcha and infusing it into vodka. And what came out was this, which is pretty brown looking. So I thought, dag nabbit, that's not gonna work. But it did, because it doesn't have that gunk in it anymore. But it is an infusion of matcha as opposed to having actual matcha powder in it. And if you put your nose to it, it smells like matcha. There's a lot of matcha in this. It is a shake and drink, so you're gonna need your shaker, and I've talked about it a heck of a lot, and you're gonna need an ounce of Midori. I often make drinks that have to be green on the show, and I often try to build those drinks in a way that is both true to what it needs to be, but also does not involve Midori because it's so expected. But in fairness, I have exhausted every trick for getting a drink to be green without Midori. Sometimes you just gotta go with what works, you know what I mean? So here we go, 1 ounce of Midori.
I don't even have Midori. I feel like the last time, how have I gotten drinks green? Blue curacao with lemon juice sometimes? Or just creamed them out?
Now I need an ounce of lime juice. So we're gonna use an ounce of clarified lime juice, but actually in this drink you can just use regular lime juice. Now I need a half an ounce of simple, which is around here somewhere. People always tell me that like, oh, Midori is already so sweet. Yeah, but it's also not. It might have a high sugar content, but frankly, to balance its flavor profile, I actually think it doesn't have quite as much sugar as it really should have. But I also think that they don't want to put that much sugar in it because it might put people off. Like it'd be like Coca-Cola. Midori works better and tastes better when you put it with a little sweetness. That's just my personal opinion. And anyway, I made this drink a bunch of times and it needed a half an ounce of simple. Now I'm gonna need 1.5 ounces of my matcha infused vodka. And actually, if you look at it, it looks brown, but it has a greenish tinge to it.
It does.
All right, we're gonna shake that up. I went backwards this time. I did the... And it does kind of foam up, which is really fun. And I'm gonna actually pour it into this tasting glass just to demonstrate this.
Ooh,
Kind of
wow.
foam up into a matcha latte of sorts.
Yeah,
I
it
like the way that
does.
looks a lot. I think that's a great way to serve this, but the way you should serve this is in a syringe. And then you can put these in like a skull like we have back here. And just let people grab them and go. And like, honestly, that really looks pretty good.
That's cool.
It's not quite literally oxidizing and glowing like a glow stick because that would kill you, but it's pretty good. Okay, here we go.
Awesome party drink.
That's awesome.
I love it. I would never have thought Midori and matcha would go well together, but they really go well together. They don't try to occupy the same space. So you get this like oscillating flavor passes through this like sweet, tart Midori sour spot, and then it moves into this earthy matcha flavor, this tea flavor. And the transition is really enjoyable. It slides from one end of the spectrum on a cocktail all the way to this other end of the spectrum. And it does so, I would say, elegantly, which is, you know, obviously I'm putting on airs about it a little bit, but it actually, it's good. It's good. If you really want something that's just electric green and not a cocktail, all you gotta do is do Midori and vodka. We just did a drink that had a big pour of bitters, and that one, you get this mouth-drying bitterness up front. In this one, you get a lighter version of that on the back end of it, and also the taste of matcha, which, I mean, again, if you don't know what matcha tastes like, it's gonna be hard for me to explain it. Like, I don't know how to break it down into components smaller than its own, like the ingredient that it is. I do have to say, just shook like that, it's really cool that it gets this kind of a head on it. That's a lot of fun, and that's the matcha does that, you know, because when you whisk a matcha bowl, it should have a frothy head on it. I don't know how to describe it, but I can tell you it's actually really good. It's way better than a stupid party drink has any right to be. Wow. I'm so happy with it. I'm gonna stay here and reanimate myself, and we'll be right back with another horror movie, Return of the Living Dead. All right, so we're gonna talk about Return of
I was like, did he actually take another shot?
the Living Dead. Now, first off, I gotta tell you, I love Night of the Living Dead. I think that's a really very cool movie. First of its kind, transgressive cinema, breaking new ground, progressive cinema, and low budget. Whoa, low budget movie. Love it. I've seen it like 300 times, I think, at this point. I'm not actually clear on all the details here, Meredith, but somebody else was involved in Night of the Living Dead, and he and George Romero had a falling out. And George got to keep Night of, and the other guy got to keep Living Dead. And so George went and did Night of the Living Dead, then he did Dawn of the Dead, had to lose Living Dead. Did Day of the Dead, City of the Dead, etc. Other guy got to keep Living Dead, and he did Return of the Living Dead, which I think there was some tension over because it sounded a lot like a sequel to Night of the Living Dead. And then Return of the Living Dead's part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever. This drink, we need to have a glass called a trifle, which is not quite the same as a coupe. It's opener, it's heavier. I worked on this a couple different ways. This is, by the way, my drink for Return of the Living Dead, Mudman Gunk. Brains.
Ew.
Great puppetry in this movie. Fantastic puppetry. I love it.
Wow.
So Mudman Gunk, and if you've seen the movie, you're going to get that. It's going to go in a trifle.
I haven't. I have not seen the movie. I have not seen a lot of older horror movies, or newer horror movies. I've seen like Friday the 13th and Halloween, the first ones of each. I saw Scream. I saw like I Know What You Did Last Summer. I don't know. Like I've seen like 1408, Paranormal Activities 1 and 2. I've seen a few horror movies, not many.
Trifle glass. It is going to be an ice cream based drink. A little bit of a dessert thing. All right, all right. We're going to take our small tin, put our glass off to the side here. Actually, I want to take this trifle. I'm going to, in this drink, in this case, I want to make sure this has been chilled, so we're going to put it in the freezer. In a lot of drinks, it's not vital. And yep, this is my ice cream. I'm actually kind of letting that warm up. But in a lot of drinks, it's nice to have a frozen glass, but we can get away with it not being frozen. But I did make a note the other night that in this particular case, it really should be frozen. So to make this drink, it's actually not that complicated. Well, there's a couple weird steps, but the actual ingredients are pretty simple. The first ingredient, and by the way, yes, I am heating up some boiling water. It's a little loud. I'm yelling over it. Okay, so the first thing we want, we're gonna use some Mr. Black in this one, coffee liqueur. Again, I like the theme of caffeine, back from the dead. So we want Mr. Black, and this particular Mr. Black rested on previously used rum barrels from Bundaberg. If you can get it, great. I don't think it's 100% necessary to make this drink work. I don't even think it's 50% necessary to make this drink work. But if you can get it, that's awesome. It's even better. 1.5 ounces of Mr. Black. Now, I want 1 ounce of Amaro de Angostura. This is not a supremely popular Amaro. I really feel like it should be. It's maybe one of my favorites because I love Angostura bitters, and it kind of tastes like that. So I hope you can find this. Certainly, Curiata will have Amaro de Angostura. Check out the link up there, link in the pin comment below. Go on.
I might have to look at Curiada for, pardon me, for getting refreshments for my party.
Go to Curiata and get your Amaro Angostura. Really good Amaro. It's my favorite. 1 ounce of this. I'm getting a little tipsy. Everybody in the club getting tipsy. You know that song?
Yeah, have I ever told you my story about that song?
I have a story about that song too.
Mine's quick.
Yours what?
Mine's quick.
Okay, go ahead.
No, we were in college. We were shooting one of the student films, and I was on set for it. And there was a kid in the film, and that song had just come out, and it was his favorite song. And his mom was like, "He thinks it's everyone in the club getting chips."
Oh, that's
So
fine.
for the whole shoot, everyone kept walking around being like, "Everybody in the club getting chips," and this kid just thought he was the coolest.
That's
thing.
awesome. I heard that song when I was living in Atlantic City and repossessing cars, and I was cruising through Atlantic City in the police car that I bought for $500 because I had an LS1 police car. But anyway, I was driving around Atlantic City, and that would come on the radio, and I thought he was singing, "Everybody in the club getting tips." I thought he was bragging about how much money he has and what a generous fella he is. I thought he was just like, I'm going to make it rain, which is not unlikely. That's like a likely, everybody getting tipsy, everybody getting tips. I think both work great. Both work great. So the next ingredient you need is some plantation, OFTD, old-fashioned traditional dark. This is some overproof 69% rum, 1 ounce of.
I mean, I went straight to OFMD. Let's go talk to some gay pirates for a minute there, but there it's a T, not an L.
This madness. Now, we're going to borrow a little trick here from Jeffrey Morgenthaler, and we're going to do something called making what he calls a bartender's bain-marie, or water bath. So I got a pot of boiling water here, and I'm just going to pour this into my big tin. And why are we doing this? Well, I actually want to get my ingredients hot, but I also don't want to water them down. Cool. Just like halfway up, 2/3 of the way up. Then I've got my small tin, and instead of turning it over, like I'm going to shake it, I'm just going to set it in there and let it float. Take my bar spoon, and I'm going to stir the ingredients in the small tin. Now we're kind of, sometimes you do a water bath to cool things down. You stir it, the liquid, you want to stir it because you're changing hands about which part of that liquid is in contact with the cold surface. Same idea backwards. We're changing hands of what part of that liquid is in contact with the hot surface, and we're heating it up. Okay, so we're going to heat it up without adding any water to it. It's brilliant. It is a truly genius technique. The only problem is that right now this is super hot. So the next thing we need to do is set up the drink. Okay, we got our glass. So now I'm going to put in some ice cream. Oh, this ice cream got very hard. I really wish I broke it. I wish I had like a nice ice cream scoop. I don't. I would be so much more artful looking.
Just a regular
You should get
spoon.
a nice ice cream scoop. They're wonderful things until they break. And then you can have beautiful lumps of perfect ice cream. Okay? There we go. Just some ice cream, okay? Who doesn't love ice cream? I guess the lactose intolerant. Actually, I had a friend who's lactose intolerant, and he still loved ice cream. He would just.
I have a lot of friends who are like, I've known a lot of people who are lactose intolerant and they still love ice cream. They just take their little pill right before. I like some ice cream sometimes, but I can only ever eat like 3 bites, and then I'm like, you know what? I feel fine. I'm done. I don't need any more ice cream. I'm much more of a salty person than a sweets person. So it's like I will eat way too many pretzels. And I was like no sweet. I'm like, nah, whatever. I've got like a chocolate bar, for instance, that's been in my freezer for actual months now, and I've eaten like a quarter of it. Like every so often, I'm like, you know what? I want a piece of chocolate, and I go and I snap off a square, and then I eat it. I'm like, it's bad, but I will go through so many chips.
Just decide it's ice cream day, and then I'm gonna be sick. So I'm just gonna finish this. This is probably already hot, and we're just gonna pour this right over the top of our ice cream, and that is our Mudman Gunk. It's kind of a riff on affogato, honestly. Why does it have to be hot? Well, it has to be hot because one, I want the ice cream to be melting. I do. You can stir it in and drink it, or you can eat it with a spoon. It's kind of an alcoholic ice cream float, and it is delicious. I don't really even need to describe this for you to know that it's delicious. It's ice cream and rum and coffee. A true match made in heaven. If you had like a little skull or skeleton boy you could stick in there, that'd be great, for a garnish, something like that. There's something like scully looking. I don't have anything like that here. I'll garnish it with this copper skull. And honestly, the fact that it's called Mudman Gunk, that it starts to look pretty funky in here is great. It works out good. It's a lot like a mudslide. That's probably why I leaned in this direction, because I was thinking Mudman, Mudslide. It's Tarman. I keep calling him Mudman, but everybody calls him Tarman. It's Tarman Gunk. Anyway, that's what I thought. I forgot that he's called Tarman, because they don't ever use that name in the movie. That's just like an online discourse, which I don't really engage in. And so in my head, he's Mudman, and I thought Mudman Gunk. And so I made kind of this weird riff on a mudslide that's also an affogato. It means drowned in Italian. And then I found out it was Tarman, and I was supposed to update my notes to say Tarman Gunk, but I didn't.
It's okay. The graphics have fixed you all the way through.
It's like crossing itself out. So what you get with this drink is this coffee, bitter, but not like coffee, but bitter like spices and bitter like earthiness and like an Amaro, like Angostura bitters. Highly boozy, rummy drink, and Plantation OFTD is a lovely rum. Very nice. It's a very nice rum, despite its 66% alcohol by volume, mixed with ice cream.
Wow.
So you've set all of those, you know, hot alcohol, everything off with this creamy, vanilla, delicious dessert drink. Also, if your glass is chilled and your ice cream is cold, you get a very cool fog effect. I don't know. I wasn't planning on that. That was great. It kind of looks like when the barrels open up in the movie and all the gas comes out. I made 3 drinks today from 3 movies that I really enjoyed. Made the Re-Animator serum. I made the Tarman Gunk, which I apparently have drank and ate all of. And I made the potion from Death Becomes Her, which is a great movie, by the way. I think more people should see that movie. It's fantastic.
I
don't think you need to see Re-Animator. I love Re-Animator, but you can live without it. But Turn to Living Zed and Death Becomes Her, you got to see them. They're so good. They're both so good for different reasons. Great performances, so much fun. It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. It's just like gory camp from the 80s. It has a couple of really cool scenes in it. But anyway, I hope you're enjoying spooky season. You'll find me on Twitch, Twitter, Patreon, the very important one that helps me make this show, TikTok, and Instagram. I knew there was another one. I've been making the show a very long time. I hope you will enjoy these. I've done some other Halloween drinks. We'll pop them up here on screen. I did a Hocus Pocus. Probably should have done another one because Hocus Pocus 2 just came out, but I heard it was bad. I did a Hocus Pocus thing. I've done some other Halloween-y stuff. Maybe Pumpkin Juice is Halloween-y. Anyway, I will see you very soon with another episode of HTD. I hope you stay spooky.
I do too. I also hope you stay spooky. All right. I actually might make the first and second drinks there. Those look really good. I don't have any syringes, but I mean, that's kind of cool. I kind of like it. Those were good. And like, I like the idea of having sort of a spooky drinks. Like I said before, I've done like a blackberry puree that I added glitter to make it swirl, and you know, we called it a witch's brew. One thing I usually do, which is incredibly dangerous, it's good for fall in general, but it's dangerous. It is Captain Morgan spiced rum. It could be any spiced rum. I usually use Captain Morgan because it's cheaper than a lot of other spiced rums. Fireball and apple cider. Not apple juice, apple cider specifically. And it's a lot, and it doesn't taste like alcohol. It tastes kind of like apple pie, and it's easy. It's super, again, 3 ingredients, and it's just pour into a punch bowl and then add some like apples or something. And it's potent, y'all. It's a dangerous drink. You want something that'll get you turned fast? That'll do it. That'll do it for you. But I might try that. I liked the green one. I like the idea of having like a funky colored drink that people can. I like that a lot. I'm gonna have to play with some green. I'm gonna have to play around. That could be fun. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Stay spooky, my friends, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.